destination for a lot of kids, right? And now we've also opened up. We fought at the time to allow Canada to take the students back without punishing them, having them sit out a year. When that happened, we had a lot of kids that came back. They were unhappy and they came back. And they had that door open and they came home and it was great, right?
So just to
So
summarize, I think it's fair to say that now there is more money available for specifically athletic scholarships, because
absolutely,
before they didn't even call them scholarships, athletic scholarships. You had your academic scholarships if you had really good marks, but
yeah.
they would find funding for you somehow, but they wouldn't call it athletic scholarship. So now, Payman, you're saying that Canadian schools do have funding specifically for athletic scholarships.
Absolutely. Having said that, you got to remember in the only difference in Canadian schools is that your athletic scholarship is always academically tied, which
Ah,
makes you a true student athlete. So for you to receive it in year one, you have to have minimum 80% average, right? And then for you to continue receiving it, you need, like a B average, every year. So it forces kids that want that scholarship money to also academically be responsible and study, right?
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
that's a difference. So yes, to summarize, more money, better coaching, more full-time program and resources, right? So those things that I think contributing, and
And
and everything else that's going down south, with everything that goes on with all the other political nonsense and the shootings and this and that, and
of course, and the other thing a lot of students and parents don't pay attention to is the cost of university education for a Canadian down south is a lot sometimes, and they have living expenses that are expensive and healthcare costs that they have to cover. So all of this, yes, sometimes they offer you a scholarship, but the scholarship doesn't even come close to covering half of your life expenses.
absolutely. So the reality of it is that not every program in U.S. So in American schools, NCAA, I think on the women's side, there's 14 full rides. On the men's side, I think is 9.9. That's all, right? So nine full scholarships and one at 90%. So a lot of kids still get 80% scholarships, and they go, "Oh, I'm on an 80% scholarship." Okay, so you're going to school that cost of education annually is about $100,000. So you got 80% of that. Fantastic, but you still got to pay $10,000 American, right? You know what I mean? So, and that's, you translate that, with the currency exchange and all of that, depending on the time, you're still paying, 13, $14,000 and you're on an 80% scholarship. Meanwhile, you could get some money here, academic and athletic, and get a better education and stay at home closer, and also contribute to the quality of football in Canada, right? Can you imagine we had all these kids that go down south, they were here, and and again, it's not for everybody. I'm not saying that you shouldn't take it. You get in a scholarship to UCLA or top programs of Florida or Wisconsin, or some of the schools that are prestigious, and like one of my good friends, Rob Marinero, who's former Canadian player, played professionally, went to school there. He's been at Kent University. Does a great job there. He's got a lot of Canadian kids there. Does a fantastic job. So it's not that it's a bad destination for kids, right? But don't go for the wrong reasons. We have kids that are going there just to say I'm on a full ride. Well, yeah, you're at a full ride. I don't know whether this is politically, for me to name a school. Like, I hate to say it, but Mississippi Valley, who's an NCAA Division I school, but you know, they're, with all due respect to them, their degrees aren't accredited in Canada. So you're going over there, getting a full scholarship to education that is not close to what you would get even here at a community college, right? And I hope you don't get you know, in
For me,
trouble for
I
that.
told
But
you,
it's just my personal opinion. You look at the curriculum. We've had kids who were trying to transfer, and you can't transfer a single credit because the course curriculums are so
of course.
different that right. So you want to make sure that you're going into the right program in the right environment.
For
Right.
sure. And I could really second that in terms of the academics portion, because I had some experience working in academia for some years. And I know the level of education in Canada compared to the US is you can't compare. It's just, even as Peyvand said, the top schools, the Ivy League schools, the Stanfords, the UCLAs, they're very good, but they're only as good as, let's say, our U of T's or McGill's or some of the McMaster, some of the big schools that we have in Canada here.
Westerns, yeah, and then and here's the other piece, Mo. Quality of education. I explain this to people all the time in Canada because everything is regulated, right? The quality of education is, let's say from a scale of 1 to 10, let's say McGill has the best science program and another school has the worst science program. The difference between is a 10 to an 8.5.
Exactly.
So where in US, Harvard education and another school education is a 10 and a 0.1. There's a big gap in education because of the number of schools that are there and stuff. Here, everything is regulated. Absolutely. So because of that, the quality of education is very close, very tight. Like somebody asked me the other day, a friend, a family asking me about kin programs. McMaster versus, I'm like, McMaster's got a great program. Laurier's got a fantastic program, but they're like 0.5 apart from each other. They're all great programs, right? So you've got to see what fits. Big school, U of T, big school. Thousands of kids in classes, right? Maybe difficult for someone who's not an independent.
Exactly.
I went to U of T, man. I struggled. Right, and versus a smaller school where faculty-student interaction is better, then you're more successful. So you got to find the right environment for yourself, right? And soccer-wise and education-wise, right? Exactly. Soccer-wise, hey, where am I going? What kind of coaching am I getting? What kind of contribution am I making? To the program, et cetera, right?
So, at what point should youth athletes and their parents start thinking about if they want to go the athletic route and look to get scholarships or get noticed by coaches? What are the routes? What are the options? How do players about it?
Okay, so a couple of things. So first of all, the rules have changed now. NCAA schools were reaching out to kids here in grade 8 and 9, right? And offering scholarships. Kids with grade 9 and getting a full ride scholarship for 4 years from now. And that I witnessed with my own eyes, coach coming in 4 years later when I was with the provincial team and saying, hey, this kid I signed, is that the number 9? I'm like, yeah. Are you sure? Yeah. Because, 4 years ago, that kid was bigger than everybody else and more dominant, but everybody caught up, right? And the kid's not as good as you thought the person was back then because they were dominant in an age group because of their physical, abilities, et cetera. So, but now even NCAA schools cannot speak to you to the summer of your junior year. So the summer that you finish grade 10, going into grade 11, I honestly think grade 11 is when you could start looking. And for some reason, academically and everything else, maturity, boys don't start looking till grade 12, right? And they have different perceptions. My experience of coaching the men's side over the last 4 years and recruiting, and then the girls, you ask the girls, how's your grades? They go, oh, I'm pretty good. Well, I'm in the 80s. You tell a guy, how you doing? Oh, I'm doing really good. What are your grades? Oh, pretty good. Where are they? Well, mid 70s, which really translate to about 4 or 5% less than what they tell you, right? In every, in every category. So anyhow, that's the side note. So when can they look and when should they look is, to me, starting in grade 11, right? Starting grade 11, they could start looking and finding the right channel. So I have left, actually, when I left Ontario Tech, I started working with my former coach and a good friend, Mr. Barry McLean, who came up with an idea a year and a half ago and said, hey, we could create this platform called Best Athletes. And, he took that. It was a tech startup company. And then when I left, I joined them right away. And with a, very strong group out of Waterloo, created this company called Best Athletes that actually provides athletes with a platform to post some tangible data. Because as coaches, we get a call, we get an email, and says, oh, my name is, Johnny, and I'm the best right back, or Jane, I'm the best right back in Ontario because my coach said so, and here's my videos. And then you're trying to look through the videos to see, you don't have any tangible data on kids. So what we did with this, with this platform is to um, post some information on the athlete. So create a platform that looks at four corner development. So kids will go and do some verified testing. So measuring speed, agility, power, acceleration and recovery, right? Those five more important components. You post those onto that platform. You could run a comparative data analysis. So you could say, oh, I'm a 16-year-old. Where do I stand against 16-year-olds or 17-year-olds? Or based on my developmental age. So not because I'm a January kid and my
Yeah.
parents are all 6'7" and I'm a bigger kid, but you know, and versus a kid who's smaller parents born in December. Look at your, you know, peak height velocity or your developmental age and compare only to that group. So I'm, and then also, be able to go in and do a soccer personality test, do a 150 questions questionnaire that measures your overall leadership skill and your overall mental skill, and have that on this dashboard, and then create a video library of your highlights over the years, and then year over year. So if you jump on at 16, have all that data, 16 years old, 17 years old, 18 years old. So now coaches could look, and there's a LinkedIn functionality where coach could you could ask a coach to look at your profile, a coach could ask to look at your profile, you could give them access, and then on this platform a coach could go and see, oh, Johnny is really fast, he's in the 80th percentile of his group, and those video buckets are based on position. So if you're looking for a center back that's good in the air, you could go to click on aerial duels. And so we've solved some of that, and then also provided some coaching tools for coaches on there, calendar functionalities, and depth charts where you can look at your entire team, and video cutting tools where you can actually simply cut a video and communicate back and forth with your athletes. So we've created that platform that it's honestly, the feedback's been incredible from all the coaches, because nothing like it exists. Because for coaches to go, to have all that information, they have to go to different platforms, right? There are people that do fitness, people that do video cutting, people that do, maybe psychological. So we'll be brought it all together on that one platform. And so we're hoping to solve that problem. We just started to launch sort of the MVP product and getting out to all these Canadian schools to get them on board. And so platform like that, I think, would help athletes to get on it and put their, this kind of is becoming a little promotion for
Oh, okay.
our company, but it's a reality. I think the feedback's been amazing. I've not yet shown this to anybody that said, oh, I don't know about this. Everybody's like, oh my God, this is amazing, right? So just because you have everything there, right? And again, there's a LinkedIn functionality. You could search, and we're hoping to use some machine learning and some AI down the road to even do predictive modeling, look at kids at certain age and say, based on this, they're where can they be based on this assessment, on their tactical assessment. And so I think that's going to be a fantastic tool for kids to use, best athletes. People want to go and look, and right now,
I'm gonna put the information of best athletes in the caption of the video once we post them. So
oh,
that
fantastic. Yeah. So that would be great. That would be great
hold
as
on
well.
for
And
sure.
kids could go in and they could, sign on right now for free, just because it's COVID time. They could actually post their own. We have videos there. We work with Richard Bucciarelli. Rich, he's incredible in what he does in terms of soccer fitness specific stuff. We're doing, some academic, we're providing some academic solutions to Joe Carapi and his, best education. He's under the umbrella now with us and doing SAT prep and things like that for kids that want to go away. So it'll be a full service platform that I think kids could take advantage of. Um, yeah. So, again, even if you are not on those platforms, what you need to do is try to um, do your due diligence, look at the soccer program, look at the academic school, look at the costs that your parents have to incur, right? And then look at your own contribution about, where, what your contribution is going to be to that program, et cetera, et cetera. So do your due diligence, select, maybe a top five, write an email to those guys, share your profile, whether through our platform or other platforms, share your profile with with those coaches, and then invest the time to go see, get the feel of the of the environment, right? And where you're at, have a practice and see what you like, because everybody's going to be at their best when they're recruiting you, right? Talk to some of the former players. People have graduated and gone, right? And find out about good and bad, right? So really doing your due diligence, right, in terms of selecting school.
That's
Right?
a great piece of advice, talking to former graduates or former players who've gone through the program recently. I think that's a good way to get a sense of, and of course, as you said, you have to understand the school, the culture of the city you're going to move into, the social
Absolutely.
aspects. So just to summarize there, Peyvand, so if parents or players want to reach out to programs and coaches, it's best that they have an organized platform, like as you said, through Best Athlete, for example, so they could have what you mentioned, tangible data. So they're not just saying, I'm a really fast wingback. You could actually show what your speed is, what your agility is. So the coach has a good profile of you, a real picture of what you are as a player, rather than just simply guessing based on some YouTube videos or what you said. And I think this is a great tool for also players who want to go to the professional level as well, because when you reach out to clubs or you reach out to agents or whoever, they want to see some stuff as well. They want to know who you are and what you do. So I think it's a great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think the focus there, again, it's kind of four corner, right? Because you could see the kids game, and then you have not only the fitness data, but you also have the mental piece, right? Where you're not only just talking about the leadership skill, but you're also looking at resiliency and your
Exactly.
competitiveness, your grit, and all of those things
Exactly.
summarized in those two components: overall leadership skills and overall mental skills in the game. That's important, right? And if kids are honest, right, and using these tools, because some kids might come in the wrong box at the end of the day, but that's a cue for you to say, why did I get here? Let me look deep. The questionnaire that they do with us through our platform gives you a 12-page report, very detailed report. We summarize it on the platform. Not every detail is there, but you could go in there and look and say, you know what, looks like I'm having a problem dealing with failure. Who do I reach out to? I need to reach out to professionals to deal with that piece if I want to be successful. It looks like I'm selfish, in certain areas, right? Or looks like I have leadership, qualities. So then you need to highlight that, and the coach needs to know that. We're always looking to see who's our next captain.
Exactly.
It's going to be my next captain. It's going to be the next leader. And I
Exactly.
tell you, in environments where things have failed for us, we didn't have good leadership, guaranteed, you
Absolutely.
know?
Absolutely.
And so if we have those tools available, then we could use those to fill in the gaps. Hey,
Exactly.
my recovery needs to be at 20, you know, right? By the time I get to university, I'm at 17. I got some work to do. I better get out, or reach out to professionals within my club, or reach out to professionals outside of my club, right? My grades aren't good. I need to prepare. If I need to, let's reach out to some tutoring. I want to write my SAT. Let's prepare for it. So we're saying not only we're going to tell you what that is on our platform, we're also going to provide you with some solutions. Hey, reach out to Rich, reach out to Joe, and you know, reach out to Dr. Peter Guy, or people that are in the industry working. Um, so I think if kids are honest and do answering the questions honestly, and they're posting the right information, they could use this period to improve and develop. So then you have more finished product as by the time you get to university, right?
Exactly. And I think it's a great tool to have for serious athletes who are really considering going through the pathways. I think it's a great way to keep track. And as I said, we'll post all the information, because Coach Peyvand just mentioned that right now is a free trial. So you could jump on, and at the
Oh,
very least.
absolutely. Well, we've got it through we reached out to some sponsors, and to try to allow us to through their sponsorship, through their help, and to be able to provide this platform as a goodwill gesture, sort of through this COVID environment, so kids and
Exactly.
coaches can use that and do something, right? So
Exactly. So
yeah.
now the other approach is coaches reaching out to players. So somehow they get identified. How do players get identified by university or college coaches?
Well, if I, I tell you, the only way for coaches to identify players, you randomly going into showcase tournaments, right? Or you go in to visit teams and you're doing your job as a coach to recruit. So you're looking at the league and look at the highest league and you see where the top teams are and who's doing well, and you get out and you start looking at players there, right, within those environments, or you're attending showcases, or you're attending, now they have some virtual showcases, and you reach out and you invest the time to look at those players. Um, um, Again, through our platform, coaches will be able to actually search for players. Specifically, I'm looking for a right back 2022, and then you can put specifics. That's got this criteria, right? So you'll be able to reach out through, to our platform. I don't know other platforms that actually have that type of search. I mean, you could search, probably there's some that you could search for grads, 2022 grads, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know how much information you would get beside their basic profile and
Exactly.
specific, like whether videos, just videos and stuff, right? But for coaches, it's difficult unless they're attending, showcase tournaments. It's difficult to, you know, really locate talent, or discover talent. Unless, again, that's why it's important for you to reach out to coaches, and showcase yourself and explain who you are and what you want to do and what your plans are, right?
I remember you had a good connection to the community as a university coach always, and you knew usually the U15 or the U16 players really well in those communities in the leagues, and you had good connections with the coaches of those players as well, so that sometimes on recommendations they would come and they would tell you to come look at a player.
Absolutely, absolutely. That connection. I mean, the coaches reaching out again. That's a external person reaching out to you, right, and saying, "Hey, come and look at some of these kids on our team, and we have a good team." And then some environments, some groups have established themselves, have been, teams that have quality players, and they're producing quality players. So you regularly go into them, and um, so, but unless somebody's reaching out to you, or a kid's reaching out to you, you're unaware.
Yeah, so
Then the other part is, okay, how do I got to go to a showcase tournament? And it's so difficult. You go to a showcase tournament, everybody sees Messi,
exactly,
right?
exactly,
People don't see a Kylie Bordelot.
exactly.
I have to mention Kylie Bordelot, right? You know, first year Ontario Tech at Umbro. So we're talking in May, and Umbro Showcase done a great job with their showcase tournaments, right? For sure. I go in May to Umbro, and so you're talking May, school starts, June, July, August, you got to come, 3 months from there, you got to come to preseason. So I go to watch a team, Brampton, play, and the coach says, a friend of mine says, "Pay everybody on my team." At the time, they had kids on that team. They were on a national team, on the U17s, provincial team. Says, "Everybody signed on my team. I got one or two kids that haven't signed." So I go, "Who is it?" This kid's playing center back. I go and watch, and I'm writing notes, and I'm like, "Man, this kid, wow, she's good in the air. Man, she could strike the ball well. Long range pass is fantastic. Tenacious one-on-one defender." I'm like, "Oh, I want this kid." So I go speak to the kid, Kylie Bordelot, and I say, "Kylie, um, we like new school Ontario." And she's like, "No, no, no, thank you. I don't think I'm going to play." "What? What do you mean you're not going to play?" "No, you know what?" And she was upset. She was visibly upset. She was like, "Wow, look at every kid on my team's got a scholarship. Nobody's ever talked to me." I'm like, "Hey, I'm speaking to you. Come over there. I'm speaking to you. I don't know how come somebody hasn't picked you up." "Well, nobody has. Hey, come for a visit." I twist her arm to come for a visit. We sign her on. Let me tell you, 5 years later, she was our captain for 5 years, four OUA All Stars, two All Canadians, Athlete of the Year at school, played for Canada twice at the World University Games. And in her final year, fifth year, she was, she was OUA MVP as a center back. MVPs in the league are typically the goal scorers, and she was an MVP, right? Um, in our program. It's those those things are rare because everybody sees all the other kids,
Exactly.
and people don't zoom in I had to zoom in on her because she's the only player that was available from there. But then when I zoomed in, I couldn't understand how she hasn't been selected. Sorry, my wife has
No
to
worries.
grab
This
her.
is the this is the new normal for all types of meetings,
Yes, it's
even
televised.
national security staff. No worries, no worries. This is
Yeah.
I don't you saw the I'm sure you saw the news piece where the guy is giving a serious talk to the news and his kids come running in. So
Oh
this
yeah, yeah, it happened. This is the norm. This is our
this is
new norm. This is our
exactly
new. This is our
exactly.
new norm. But that's
So I
okay.
think the moral of the story is here is this that it's a better option for players to organize themselves nicely as a package and present themselves. For example,
Absolutely, because it's tough for kids, for coaches to go into a showcase tournament, two teams, and then 700 other games,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
for you to go spot the player you want. Unless people know that you've spoken to them in advance and said, these are my qualities, it's difficult for coaches to come and see you and spot you, right? And and I have to say, the reality of it is that there are coaches that see that and there are coaches that don't see that, right? They don't see talent in Kylie Borderlow, right? I think it's just a reality. It's just a reality. Therefore, you got to do your job. You got to prepare. You have to, you know, right? You have to be ready to, really sell yourself as an athlete about what you have to offer, right? So whatever tools you could use to do that, to highlight your talents, it's better.
what are coaches, university coaches, looking for? Obviously, aside from basic talent. I mean, yes, all the coaches are looking for talented players, but
Yeah. Honestly, it's different for everybody. It's different for everybody. For me, we were looking for, for me, it was kids that uh, were hard workers, you know, right? Kids who were willing to buy in to a plan. Um, and we had some values that every year, beginning of the year, we visited those values. Integrity and loyalty, and some of these things were part of our value system that we presented and said, hey, if you want, and we did that before they came in. You come in here, these are the expectations, right? And people who understood that you are in a performance environment, right? Performance based environment, and you need to understand that, and top 11 players play where our development happens in off season, in preseason, exhibition games, but in season, it was difficult because we had to go with the best 11 players, and sometimes athletes have a hard time with that, right? So we wanted to we watched Rudy every road trip beginning of the year. I promise you, you could ask my players that played for me. Rudy was on the bus every first game. Hey, know that you might be here for 5 years, and you may not play as much on the field, but doesn't mean that you can be part of the program and contribute to the success of this program. We needed people to understand that, and we had a hard time with that every year. We always had a hard time with that because our perception as athletes are different, and because we think, oh, right? And sometimes, unfortunately, it's becoming prevalent now. It's becoming a norm for athletes to influence programs and environments based on the fact that I didn't play.
of course,
Right?
oh,
It's sad, but it's happening more often.
yeah,
Right? It's happening more often, and it's not on to them. I don't blame the athletes because they're not educated on this. It's the people who take those decisions and manipulate the environment for their own benefits,
of course,
right? Because they cannot hold athletes accountable. Say, hey, this is it, and whether it is weakness that you don't want to deal with things, you know, whether uh, you know, um, whatever the perceptions is the adults, management, schools that take that information and hurt people with it, right?
of course.
Otherwise, it's a reality of these environments, right? So, and if you accept it, we were very open with that day one. Day one, we said, hey, this is potentially you could be here and not play, but doesn't mean you can't be part of the program and contribute. And whether your contribution on the field is 1 minute or 90 minutes, or in training environment, it's contribution to the success of the program. So we wanted people to understood that. Wanted people that were honest, wanted to learn, and they were open to learning. And they wanted to be there. They want, like, for I've unfortunately, well, no, I won't say unfortunately, realistically, I've always been in environments where there were development environments, whether it was North Cards, whether it was Ryerson, whether it was Ontario Tech, whether it was Oshawa Turo. There were always environments that, I walked into places that meant that I had to go take the path of most resistance,
Exactly. Exactly.
and through that, great learning for myself and the environment, and great accomplishment, right? We were in those environments where it was tough, um, but still, we demanded that you see that as an opportunity to contribute to this program. So if you're coming in here, know that you could contribute probably more than going to a team that just won, 2 national championships.
Exactly.
But then we were there. We were a team that was winning OUA division title, and so anyhow, so that's my thoughts on that. Right?
I mean, I think the message that comes across is that not only you have to be a good player, you have to have strong character and integrity
Absolutely.
and
Bang on.
teamwork and
Bang on.
exactly. And
Bang
these
on.
are, these are the things that I remember most when I played for you back in the day. I mean, when I played as a 19-year-old on the senior team, there were so many good players on that team that to not play was the norm. I mean, even if you played for 5 minutes, that was your contribution. And
Wow.
these are some things that I remember learning at an early age. And I think it comes back to coaching now. I feel the same way. I think players have to have a strong character to understand when you're on a team, only 11 guys can play or 11 ladies can play. Other
Yeah,
people have,
absolutely. And then some people, like I said, it's hard for people not to understand that. I honestly have to say, and for you people that I've had the pleasure working alongside, and they could tell you for sure. For us, though, it didn't matter if you were the best player or you're the least experienced player. When it came to our environment, we treated everybody the same. The players that played for me, and some of them that they could tell you in our second year, we decided as a group that we had dry seasons and we don't drink, but there was a party and people drank. I found out about it. Second game of the season, we had 20 players. I went in the change room and gave everybody the talk on integrity and honesty and how you made a commitment. And I want everybody who drank at this party come outside. I went outside. 8 people walked outside, including 6 starters. So I came back in and I said, okay, how many players do we have? We had 12. One kid was injured, and I said, this is going to be it today.
exactly.
And Kylie, who was our captain at the time, was bawling, and she said to me, "Hey, please let Jamie, Ryan, and Jess play." I hope they don't mind me saying that, because it was a good story. Because all those kids went on to become tremendous leaders in our program. They said, "Let them play," and I said, "Why? Why should I?" said, "Well, because the parents drove from Thunder Bay and Ottawa for a 1 game weekend." And I said, "I'm sorry. Go and tell your parents that they're also affected by your poor decision."
Exactly.
So we treat everybody the same, and I don't know if that's the case for every of my colleagues in this field, but for us it was. It didn't matter who you were, and we try to treat everybody the same and hold everybody accountable to the same rules and regulations that we had set from day one, who was kind of dictated by the athletes, right? They're the ones who said, "Hey, we're going to do this and that and that." Okay, fantastic. You know, print that and put it in your room so you remember it. So anyhow. And then along the way, some people may not like you for that, and but I could hold my head up high, right? That
Absolutely.
at the end of the day, those are the decisions that we made, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Peyvand, I wanted to move on lastly and talk about the state of football in Canada and where do you see it going? How's you've been in developmental football at the basic football developmental level of some years as well as a technical director. So you're very familiar with that environment and you've seen it changed over your playing career, your coaching career. Where are we going?
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
we have a 5-year plan
So
in 2026?
we're talking the men's game or the women's game?
Let's talk about the men's game a little bit.
Okay, so the men's game, I think we went through that period where the absence of a domestic league hurt us. This is my personal opinion, because I look back to CSL when we played in '93 against Mexico at home, when US was hosting the World Cup, and there was only one team going from CONCACAF, and Canada